Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Call to order the Historic Preservation Commission regular meeting of April 25th, 2024. And we are 2 minutes late, so it's 2 minutes past 4. My name is Richard Vincent. I'm the chair. We should have 5 members present here. We have 4 for the time being. We believe Angelique will be joining us shortly, and we'll bring her into the fold then. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from our prior month's meeting. That was the meeting of March 28th, 2024. And I ask all commissioners had a chance to go through the meeting minutes from last meeting, which I was not present for, and Kara Mathis was the acting chair. Everyone had a chance to go through them with any comments or questions or changes?
Page 4, there's a clause which reads, to bring it up to code was necessary. I think we should make it clear that bringing something up to code is not within our purview, nor is making judgments about the longevity of proposed materials.
I agree with that.
The second paragraph, quite near the top. Third paragraph, it's a little short one in there.
Okay. Everyone good with that change?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve with revisions the minutes of the March 28th, 2024 regular meeting.
Seconded.
First by Roxanne, second by Kara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Our next order of business is to move into the public hearing. And the purpose of the commission is to decide applications for certificates of appropriateness for new construction or major work within the Pinehurst Historic District, and to do so by conducting hearings and making findings of fact when such applications come before us. By law, the commission is directed to take no action except to prevent construction or alterations that would be incongruous with the special character of the historic district. Again, I'm Richard Vincent, the chair of the commission, and I ask each commissioner, starting from my far right, to state his or her name for the record.
David Herring.
Roxanne Vaitskis.
Kara Mathis.
And again, Richard Vincent. So we have 4 out of 5 members present so far. So we have a quorum, and we are good to proceed. We've already reviewed the minutes from last meeting. We had a motion to approve them. We're now in the public hearing, and I'd like to let you know that this is a quasi-judicial hearing. That means that anyone desiring to testify must be sworn in, and the commission is required to consider only facts presented in this hearing. The proceedings are also video recorded, and I'll ask everyone present who is going to speak. We've had issues in the past of being able to hear and pick up on the audio, so please be sure to speak into the microphone nice and clearly so we can hear you. I will ask the commissioners now if any of them have visited the sites on our docket, all 4 sites today, and then also whether they've had any ex parte communication as well. I'll start with David on the far right.
Visited all, no communication.
Visited all 4 sites, no ex parte communication.
Visited all, no ex parte communication.
Richard Vincent visited all, no ex parte communication. I'd like to welcome Angelique.
Hi. Sorry I'm late. Angelique Fabiani, and visited all sites, no ex parte communications.
Thank you. In each case, the commission will hear this afternoon. Staff will first present a summary of the applications, the staff's evaluation of the extent to which the application complies with the commission standards for such an application or raises issues that require further information, the staff's comments on the application, and where appropriate, the staff's recommendations for commissioner's action. The application and its supporting documents, as well as the staff's detailed report, will then be entered into the record. Commissioners will then have an opportunity to question staff about this report and the testimony. Next, the applicant or the applicant's representatives will have an opportunity to provide any additional information supporting the application and to address any questions or issues identified in staff's testimony. Commissioners will then have an opportunity to question the applicant witnesses. After the applicant's presentation, if any member of the public wishes to present any evidence, either in support or in opposition of the application, please ask you to come forward, and at that time, identify yourself. I will swear you in and give you an opportunity to present any reasons why you believe that the application should be granted or either denied. Please remember, the Commission is interested only in facts that will help us decide whether the proposed work would be congruous with the special character of the Pinehurst Historic District. As chair, I have the right to exclude testimony that isn't relevant to that subject, but I'm also not required to do so. Commissioners will then have an opportunity to question you about your testimony. If the applicant or staff wishes to respond to your testimony, I'll permit them to do so. And then just before we swear staff in and proceed to our first case, I'm going to take this opportunity to just remind fellow commissioners that this is a quasi-judicial procedure and requires that no members shall have a fixed opinion prior to the hearing the matter that is not susceptible to change based on the evidence presented during the hearing. Not sure if this will be necessary in every meeting, but it's an important step for us. And any member that should any member bring up the topic of recusal as chair, I can also take that into consideration and ask any other members if they have any concerns or if on their ability to remain impartial, and a vote may be taken on whether that member should be recused or not. Okay. I'm now going to go ahead and swear the staff in. Will all staff members who may give evidence in this proceeding please stand? I'm going to have you raise your right hand. I'm going to have you state your name for the record. I'm going to start with Pam in the back. Okay.
Carpenter.
Michael Mandeville.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give to the Commission with respect to all the cases on our docket today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. We'll now move into our first case. Hand it over
Excuse
to
me.
you, Maria.
I'm sorry. I don't believe we had a motion to enter into the public hearing.
So moved.
There we go. Thank you.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
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 None and nay, thank you. Okay. Maria, back to you.
All right. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider a request for a major certificate of appropriateness within the Pinehurst Historic District for the addition of an in-ground pool and modifications to the dwelling at 97 Mackenzie Road. The property is identified as Moore County Parcel ID number 000-21446. The property owners and applicants are Robert and Tracy Noble, and this is the COA continued from our March meeting. Forgot what month it is. Okay. All right. So just a reminder of what the applicant was proposing to do. They were, or are proposing to paint the brick facade to replace existing siding with vertical siding, replace the existing metal roof with asphalt shingles. They were proposing to add a new front porch, but they have removed that from the application. They would like to change the front dormer windows from Palladium style to rectangular, add skylights to the rear roof, replace the back deck, and add a roof over that, add an in-ground pool and hot tub, remove trees 12 inches or larger in diameter at breast height, and add fencing around the rear and side yards. It is major work for all those reasons below. Nope, not gonna work. Yep. The public hearing was noticed in accordance with the PDO and North Carolina general statutes. And again, the subject parcel is in the hatched area, and then all the adjoining properties were notified. So the existing elevation for the front is here. This was what was originally proposed and what they are now proposing. So you have, again, the change to the windows, painting the brick, which they have changed the type of paint they'll be using, but I will let them give you more detail on that. And they have removed the front porch. And the rear elevation changes. They are changing the rear deck, adding a roof, adding the skylights, patio, and the in-ground pool, and painting the garage door. Here are the different materials and colors that they will be using. And they are proposing to remove trees. Again, those are all marked and in overhead, so you can see that the tree canopy will not be majorly affected by that. And this is the style of fencing that they are proposing to put in the rear and side yards. The applicant has submitted an application and provided additional documentation in an attempt to satisfy the burden of proof. The commission will need to determine if the changes to the dwelling and the addition of the swimming pool are congruous with the historic district and meet the standards. Yes.
Just a refresher, we have nothing to do with the fence, right? That's not,
It requires a certificate of appropriateness. Staff could approve that as a minor, but since they are doing all these changes, we put it on this application. So you already know that it would be approved if it were submitted as a minor COA separately.
and then the garage door doesn't have the windows, it's just the paint.
Correct.
David, hold on. Without objection, materials are entered into the record. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Now we can go for
Now,
questions.
same questions.
Same question. Fire away, David.
On your review, you indicated one of 3 example fences in the applicant's proposal, the bottom right one. There is one markedly different, which is the left one. It has a cover board over the horizontal members, and it has no caps on the posts. Which of the really 2 kinds of fences is the applicant choosing?
I'll let you ask them that question.
Thank you.
Since there are 3, you can check with them.
Any other questions of staff? I've got one question. So this application sounds like it's the identical application from last month, of which Angelique and I were not present at that meeting. So forgive some of these simple questions, but there's no other change other than possibly changes to paint color that you mentioned, and we can direct that to the applicant?
And the porch.
I can tell you, and then you can talk to them as well. The only changes were the removal of the front porch that they were going to add, and they've changed the type of paint.
Got it.
So it's going to be the same color. It's just one more for masonry.
Got it.
And just to clarify, when you say removal of the front porch, you're talking the gable and the posts, not the
We're going
stoop
to
and the
add,
brick?
so it will
Right.
stay the same.
Yes, okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Maria. We'll now hear from the applicant. I'm assuming they're here. Okay. If you're more comfortable, you can stand, or you're welcome to sit as well. No, I can swear you in before you sit down, sir. Right there. You would, I'm going to first have you state your name,
Robert Noble,
okay? And if you could spell your last name for the record.
Noble.
And then if you could tell us the relationship to the property.
I'm the owner.
Property owner. Okay, great. I'm going to swear you in now. If you would please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission with respect to this application shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat. So you heard staff's presentation. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, other than, I guess, you took out the one slide about the style of paint. So I researched extensively, paint options. David, I heeded your advice and your concern around the paint. And so what I've been investigating with multiple painters is Roma Bio, which is an Italian paint. Can you hear me? Roma Bio, which is an Italian paint manufactured, and it's called Masonry Flat. And I'm going to read right off their spec sheet, so it describes what it is. Masonry Flat is a natural mineral product that is permeable and breathable, absorbs CO2, and provides good anchoring power with mineral surfaces through a process called, difficult word to pronounce, solidization, silica-lime solution reaction. It's odorless, zero VOC, and is formulated with a special binder made from a special inorganic binder base on a mix of soluble, stabilized, and purified silicates. The binder is consolidated and strengthen the coated surface while decreasing the speed of absorption of liquid water, maintaining its water vapor transpiration power. So, everything we researched, this was the best solution we could come up with. We particularly didn't like the lime wash effect. And the other thing that is very important about this is it is tintable. So we can tint to match the Sea Pearl, which is an approved color palette in the village.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners for the applicant?
I'm hoping you'll try to convince us that painting the brick, even though I think if you're going to paint the brick, great choice, solves the technical problems. But nonetheless, the guidelines suggest that you should not paint the brick. So I'm hoping you'll try to convince us why we should allow painting the brick.
The aesthetic appearance of the house. That, to me, is the simple reason for, updating. Yes, I mean, it's a modern house, built in 1988. So, originally, I heeded your concern, the farmhouse look. That's why we got rid of the front porch. And we stayed congruent to our feeling, to the original structure of the building. We've done nothing structurally to the building. Just the color is all we're looking to do, essentially. I mean, updating the door, those type things, light fixtures, those things.
Second question has to do with the three fence examples. There's one that's a little different. It's on the left of your exhibit, and it has a coverboard, a vertical coverboard over the horizontals in line with each post, which looks a little sleeker than the one that does not have that board.
Well, I'd do whichever one you approve. Doesn't matter.
Well, suppose we'll approve either one. We just need to know which one you would like.
I mean, I prefer the one that's the flush cut post at the top, if that's what you're referencing.
Exactly. Thank you. That's all I have.
I mean, for us, it's the post and rail style.
Right.
So that's all that we're looking at.
I mean,
For us to approve
I've
it.
seen all three of these in the village in various locations, so I wasn't sure, but I prefer the one on the left, which is the flush cut.
I do too. Good choice. That's all I have.
Any other questions from commissioners? Okay. Is there any member of the public present who wishes to present any evidence either in support or in opposition to the application? Seeing none, we'll move on. Okay, so no more questions from the commissioners. The record on this case is closed, and I will let the commissioners deliberate. If there's very little deliberation, if there's a commissioner that would like to make a motion.
A few things to discuss, I think, first. Several parts of the application, I think, are perfectly fine, and one piece not so fine. Hitting the ones that I think are positives, removing the farmhousey front porch, I think, is a big plus. Much simpler, more in keeping, as you've described, with the original house. I have no problem with replacing the Palladian windows that didn't seem to fit originally anyway, so that's a plus. The board and bat, for me, is a toss-up. I think, you know, I guess it boils down to both the board and bat and painting the brick. This is a 1988 house. Had they asked to tear that house down and build what they are now proposing, it would certainly be congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District. There are other examples of all the kinds of things that they're requesting to do. So for me, the question really boils down to, should we allow painting brick when the guidelines say don't paint the brick?
Are we discussing that? Or is that a rhetorical?
Yeah.
Okay, just as in discussion, my comment would be, I guess I'm a little more lenient toward painting the brick on this home because it was built in 1988, and it doesn't have that historic provenance of a Tufts cottage or something of that nature. So in this particular case, and also because there are other white painted brick homes in that area, I would lean toward approving it. That's just my opinion.
I feel the same. And I think that there's a lot of brick homes in the historic district where if you paint the brick, the historical significance of that home is essentially destroyed. I don't think that the brick is what makes this home significant. And I think painting it makes it actually more congruous with the village than the original. Because we all know that the village has had some darker times when non-New Englandy homes were built.
Well, one other comment comes to mind, has to do with the light fixtures on the front porch. Above the circular plaque where there's a house number, it looks like there's a light fixture. And in your design element exhibit, there is a fixture that I think is the one that the applicant intends. Simple can sconce. Dark gray or black. If I got that right?
Over the house number?
Yes.
Yes.
So next to the front door, there are two more sconces, no exhibit of what those look like.
No, haven't picked exactly what they would be, but they would be representative of,
From a procedural standpoint, if we were to approve everything except those lights, since we don't know what we're looking at,
You're talking about the ones by the front door?
by the front door.
So under basic work and routine maintenance is the replacement of light fixtures with new fixtures that are compatible with the primary structure. So I don't even know that that is something that,
Could it be reviewed later as a minor?
that's basic, anybody can do that on their house without any kind of approval.
Okay, so could we ask that, would you be okay if we exclude that from our vote?
sure.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have to exclude it, or?
Well, we're deliberating amongst ourselves. If it's outside of our purview, I would suggest we don't touch it.
Well, it's on the drawings, I just want to make it clear that we're not approving the light fixtures because he hasn't selected them yet.
But if it's not our job to approve them?
Right. It's outside of our work and authority. It's the same as the lavender-looking bushes on those elevations. We're not tying him to using that, so.
Thank you, Richard.
I'm
Okay,
assuming
so
that's
if
lavender.
that's the
I have
case-
no idea.
If that's the case, my particular concern is if they are glass
Yeah.
with an exposed source,
Yes.
that in my mind isn't as much in keeping with the simple, more contemporary look of the rest of the house, and particularly because you have a much different light over the address. So an easy solution for me would be choose the same fixture. all three locations.
I think the sconce is just to illuminate the number, I assume.
Correct.
The light goes down.
Right. So, but if we're going to not exclude it,
Yeah, but just, not to sound redundant here, but it doesn't matter what, even if we conditioned a certain kind of light fitting, he could come back and replace it a month from now under basic work and not even have to, so it's really outside of what we handle, so.
Giving ourselves more words to put into this that we don't need.
understood.
I just want to clarify one thing about the paint color. When we make our motion, and if we do decide to approve the coating of the masonry, that obviously it's out of our purview whether you use latex or whether you use oil or whether you use a mineral paint. We don't, that's not part of our decision. It's just the fact you're putting a coating on the brick, correct?
Just painting the brick.
Right, so, and it will be, just to clarify amongst us, it will be in a color match to the sea pearl, right? I just want to make sure for motion purposes, because we probably need to, if we're going to approve it, we need to be clear that it would be to
think that's
match
in
the
there,
sea
right?
pearl, right?
Yep.
But the paint that they're choosing, I believe, doesn't come in sea pearl, but their color match it to it. Am I correct?
Yeah, and
Okay,
I think basically we're just approving the application. I don't think there's anything we
hear-
need
and
to
they have
condition
it.
it on.
okay,
I think it's already part of the record.
Right. We don't care what brand, just has to match that color.
right, exactly. Okay.
I think I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Okay?
Kara, let's go.
I miss anything? I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness, COA 2024-00027, and find the proposed major work at 97 Mackenzie Road is not consistent with historic district standards, but is deemed congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District based on the testimony given, the materials submitted, and the findings of fact.
Second.
I was just saying, for the record, we should probably state the reason it's not consistent. Am I correct or no?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Reason for inconsistency is that the standards state that we do not allow painting historic brick or painting brick. Do I have to do it over again?
Would you like to?
Okay.
Oh, well, you made a motion,
Okay.
so I guess we got to
Bill seconded.
second it. Do we need to nix the motion and then you want to redo it? Or are we fine with the motion as is? Sounds like we're fine with the motion as is.
Okay.
Okay, so motion has been made and seconded, and you revised your motion to say that it was not consistent because the standards,
Yes, because the standards prohibit the painting of brick.
okay, I'll poll the members. David,
I'm okay with that.
Roxanne,
Aye.
Kara,
Yes.
Richard, aye. Roxanne?
Aye.
Aye. That's 5 in favor, no nays. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
We'll now move on to our second case. We're doing some musical chairs. Come join us in the hot seat, Pam.
It's warm, but not hot. It's okay. Very good. This COA number 2024-00032 was presented to us by the applicant, which is Cribbs Construction Company, and Russell Cribbs is present this evening to address the commission. The owners of the property are Patrick and Mary Joy Pizzella, trustees. Address is 170 Palmetto Road. It's a single-family residential home. PID number 00021141, and the purpose of this public hearing is to consider a request for a major certificate of appropriateness within the Pinehurst Historic District for an office addition to the residents at this location. And I won't repeat what I've already said at the top of the slide, and I think some of that is on the next slide as well. Thank you. The only thing new here on the first paragraph is that the structure was built in 1922, and the lot is approximately 0.35 acres in size. This proposed construction will consist of a 10-foot 3-inch by 12-foot 8-inch single-story addition that will serve as an office for the owners, and it will be located along the side of the existing structure, but shielded from the views of the front of the home by what appears to be an earlier addition. I'll show you that more in just a moment. And this is here this evening because it is a major work for new construction or addition that is not considered to be minor work. Very good. Public hearing was noticed in accordance with our ordinance and North Carolina general statutes, and here's our map that we provide to you that is also part of the public notification process. The property nearest the center with the hatch pattern is the subject property, and then the other properties in red received mailed notification of the hearing. This survey was part of the application, and it does show the location of the proposed addition, and you can see it's sort of tucked back behind this, this offset area that we can assume was an earlier addition. I found out a little bit of history about the house. It has changed somewhat over the years, but in this case, we're not visible from the front, and I did pull up aerial imagery that kind of shows the same thing, but there's also a lot of tree cover here, and then street view imagery that shows this, what we believe was an earlier addition, and that it will be behind that. And the applicant has provided a couple of photographs of the existing condition of that area and the facades of the structure that will be impacted by this addition. They've also provided these elevation drawings for your review and to reference, and these were the photographs that they provided. So this staircase obviously will be removed. We'll talk a little bit about what happens with some of the other existing features here, but it will basically be added to this, where you see this, the staircase and the door, it will be behind that. The applicant has submitted an application and provided additional documentation in an attempt to satisfy the burden of proof. The proposed addition would feature materials, windows, doors, and colors compatible with the existing dwelling, and the commission, of course, will need to determine if these changes are compatible with the architectural character of the structure and congruous with the historic district and meet the historic district standards. One of the things that we added to the to your packet this time for this was some of the email communication that I had with Ms. Cribbs, just clarifying what this to match existing or the like-for-like materials really meant. And she confirmed that what they're matching is wood lap siding, asphalt shingles in a driftwood color, gelled-win windows, which are a 9-pane with a 3-pane transom above, white exterior paint. There will be repurposing the existing door that you saw in the photograph that's at the top of that little set of steps, and the brick steps and wooden handrail that you saw will be rebuilt to match what is to be taken out. And at this time, we would like to submit the following into the record, and that is the staff report with the attachments and exhibits, this presentation, and the application and the applicant's materials and exhibits. And I'm happy to take any questions that you may have of me.
Thank you, Pam. Without objection, the materials referred to by staff are admitted into the record.
One thanks to you for doing the email attachment, very helpful.
Yep.
Well, thank you for that. I think that makes sense, and of course, I know that you all know that we have a lot of communications, sometimes face-to-face, sometimes email or by phone, to try to get these ready for you to be able to have an informed decision on. So we're happy to include any of that without including more than you really need to understand how we got from A to B. Thank you for that.
I'll second David. I had a question on the as-built about the staircase not being shown, and then I reread it a second time, and there it was, plain as day in the email, so thank you.
I knew that the question would come up, so let's answer it before it's
Guarantee from
asked.
David, yeah. We're the check and balance underneath that. Okay, so no other questions from commissioners, staff? Okay. Applicant is here. Why don't you come on up and join us? You're welcome to come to the front. I'll have you remaining standing. If you would say your first name, spell your last name, and then relationship to the application.
Russ Cribbs, that's Cribbs, and I am the builder for this project.
Good deal, thank you. If you'd raise your right hand, I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission with respect to this application shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please be seated. So you heard Staff's presentation. Is there anything you'd like to add in addition to what Pam has already shared with us?
I had things to add, and then Pam did such a thorough job, I don't. I was going to mention the materials, so thank you. Had the same experience last month, thank you.
That's right.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Not so much a question, but I know the homeowner is particularly keen on shutters, and I want to thank him for not including any shutters in his application. Inside joke.
Good comment. Any other questions on the application? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, still got to go through the
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
hordes of people that showed up for the public hearing here. Is there any member of the public present who wishes to either speak or in support or in opposition to the application? Seeing and hearing none. Then we'll go ahead and officially close the record, and the commissioners can deliberate amongst ourselves. And if there's no deliberation, maybe there's a commission that would like to make a motion.
Thank you. I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness, COA 2024-00032, and find the proposed major work at 170 Palmetto Road is consistent with historic district standards and deemed congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District based on the testimony given, the materials submitted, and the findings of fact.
Motion's made by Roxanne. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Roxanne. Angelique, I beg your pardon. All those commissioners in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None with nay. You have 5-0. Congratulations. You have your COA and you're approved.
And thank you for your work on Willow Oaks. It's a beautiful home.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Moving right along to our next case.
All right. Good evening. So we are on a COA for COA 2024-00033, located at 35 Laurel Road. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider a request for a major certificate of appropriateness within the Pinehurst Historic District for the removal of 2 trees in the front yard of the home located at 35 Laurel Road. This property is identified as Moore County PID number 000-30715. The property owners are Joseph and Dorothy Black, and applicants are Joseph and Dorothy Black. Like I said before, this is a request to remove 2 trees in the front yard at the home of 35 Laurel Road. The structure was built in 1971 and is approximately 0.355 acres. This is considered to be major work. Here is the site map location. As you can see, the hatched property is our subject property, and the red are the neighbors that had been These trees, as you know, are gone. And these are the location of the 2 trees in the front yard at 35 Laurel Road. And this was taken off Google Maps. And this is the existing conditions now. This is where the trees were, adjacent to the parking area in front of the residence. The applicant has submitted an application and provided additional documentation. In an attempt to satisfy the burden of proof, the commission will need to determine if the removal of the trees is congruous with the historic district and meets the historic district standards. At this time, staff would like to submit the following into the record: the staff report with attachments, exhibits, the presentation, the application, and the applicant's materials and exhibits. And if you have any questions for me, I'll be
Thanks,
happy.
Michael. Without objection, materials referred to by staff are admitted into the record. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
I have a question. Are you saying the 2 trees were already removed?
Yes, yes. They're gone. And if they would like to speak to that, I will let them, if you'd like to ask them.
Yeah, and there's been no requirement to replace the trees with substitute plantings, correct? Nor is anything being offered? No. Not part of this application? Okay. No other questions for staff? Okay. Applicants are here. We'll have you come forward. We're not picking up all the audio from previous folks. I'm going to have you speak as loudly as you can into those mics so we can pick you up. If you'd introduce yourselves, first name, and then spell your last name, and then relation to the property, which we already know, but we need for the record.
Michael Black, B-L-A-C-K.
Dottie Black, B-L-A-C-K, and we are the property owners.
Thank you. I have you raise your right hand. I'm going to swear you in, and then you can be seated. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission with respect to this application shall be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. So you heard staff's presentation. I'm assuming there's some details you'd like to add, and the floor is yours.
Absolutely. So when we originally did the remodel of the house, when we bought the house, we had the front elevation changed. We removed a circular driveway, and during that time, we had had conversations about removing the trees. We were under the impression that that had been approved, and we just ran out of money and did not remove the trees at the time we did the original construction. So that's why we didn't know we needed to make an application. We thought it had already been done. So sorry for removing the trees before we had everything done. We put the cart before the horse. So the reason we removed the trees, or wanted to remove the trees, is because one of them was leaning over towards the neighbor's property, and they were dropping sap all over the cars.
I don't know if my question is for you or for staff, but was there ever an approval to remove those trees? Because you said they were under the belief that there was.
When it first came to our attention, I did look back at the minutes from the meeting that they had the exterior changes approved at, as well as listening to the meeting again, the video, and there was no mention of the trees. That's why I let them know that they'd have to
Come back.
do a major and come back here.
When was that? Okay.
2.5 years ago? Mm-hmm. And then there's been subsequent COAs as well for a detached garage in the back. That was the back side of the property. Okay, any?
On our exterior work,
Ms. Dottie, I'm going to have you just hit the mic.
the original renovations on the exterior of the home were so extensive that I believe in our original application, I took a picture and kind of took a magic marker and put grass here and drew, it was very informal. So it really wasn't even discussed in our original renovations. But in our mind, it was part of the whole, driveway and landscaping, et cetera. So again, we do apologize. I had no idea that we should have come back.
Any other questions for the applicants?
Just one regarding, it looks like there's a parking pad in front, and I think that's where you're saying it's sapping, or was sapping. Is there parking availability, I think, behind the house? There's an alleyway?
There's an alleyway, but there's nowhere to park back there.
Okay,
I have
so there's-
I have pine straw and grass.
Okay, there's no garage back there or anything?
There's a garage back there,
Oh.
no, we don't, it's basically a golf cart garage and storage.
Okay, so it's a small garage that a car couldn't fit in?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
not saying you don't park there, but it's, okay, so, all right, understand.
There's one additional parking space on the far right of that picture.
Outside of view.
Yeah, outside of view. And it will hold one of our 5 vehicles.
Now, are those parking spaces in the right-of-way, or do we don't, that's not the issue here, it's really the trees, so ignore that question. Sorry.
Post facto approval for 2 trees that are gone.
We do intend on planting up more trees in the future. We just haven't gotten a landscape, we hadn't talked to our landscaper about what would fit in there and what we need to plant.
Okay. No other questions from commissioners? Is there anyone from the public? Seeing none. And there's no questions of the public because there's no one here. Then I'm going to go ahead and close the record on this case, and the commissioners can deliberate.
Well, I have to speak up loudly. There's not a lot of tree canopy on your lot. What there was has been mostly removed. Had you asked, I would, and I were in a position to vote on it, I would not have approved it. What we do now is the million-dollar question. And from the staff's point of view, I don't know what sort of maneuvers we can do to try to recover from, and I'm most certain is an honest mistake.
You could consider adding a condition that there be some remediation. And I think that you'd need to be very specific about what that is. And this is a good time to discuss, what is reasonable and what would satisfy. Obviously, these were somewhat mature pines, so you won't get those back, but you may get something that works better both for the applicant as far as the species not putting sap on the cars, but also helps to bring back some of that tree canopy that's been lost. So that's an option.
Well, with regard to the remediation, the applicant has already mentioned that they're thinking of adding some additional landscaping, which I presume they would do in the near term. Is there any way we can ask the applicant to submit landscape drawings now and postpone any comment on this until we have a chance to review their suggested remediation?
I think that's a very good suggestion. Obviously, this is not time sensitive. The work has already been performed, and this would give you more clarity on what you might expect as far as replacement.
And it would give the applicant an opportunity to shape the remediation rather than simply dictating it.
I think that's a very good way
When
to
we-
approach it. Staff's happy to work with them to produce something that we think would be amenable to this commission.
When we're in deliberation amongst ourselves here, so it is somewhat talking out loud. We've closed the record to the applicant, so we could, I think you can't look at this, for me, I don't think you can look at this in isolation. I think this has been as any major remodel in the village, it's a, I don't know, 2.5, 3-year event. I don't think there's any malintent, David, as you said. It seems like a genuinely honest mistake. But for the applicant, for you to understand, when this has happened to us, there's been, whether it's a building, something can be restored, something can be put back, a window can be replaced, a door can be replaced. When it's a 50-year-old tree, there's not much you can do about it. For me, a landscaping plan, for me, it feels like it's a little heavy. I look at this as a 2.5-year project and a massive improvement on this property from where it's come, from all the things that have been done to the property to improve it, to bring it in keeping with the village. It's really become a charming cottage. There've been major landscape improvements and shrubberies and plantings around the house, around the detached garage. So I think there's been really good effort made. If we're concerned with a canopy, well, the canopy produced by those 2 trees is gone. Us coming back and asking for additional landscaping or a show of landscaping or additional plantings is not going to solve the canopy piece that we lost. So to me, for the most part, that seems a little overbearing. It is an unfortunate situation. I think in 4.5 years, I can't recall a case where trees like that, where a canopy has been impacted and come back and asking for forgiveness. But for me, the landscaping requirement or coming back and having additional is not going to solve the issue of the lost canopy or diminished canopy.
Can we just replace cut down trees with new pines that in another 50 years, 100 years will create a canopy? Because
But I guess it's common practice to remediate when you want to remove something that can't be replaced. It's common practice in construction activities to remediate that move. It would be reasonable to ask that that be done here. Will it replace, as you've already pointed out, in many, many years, it could replace the canopies that's there, but if it's exactly like for like, pine tree for pine tree, now we're back to the sap problem.
well, but not,
So
yeah, not yet.
Whether or not it's going to exactly replace the current canopy isn't so much the issue as something to replace the damage that, to the community that has happened. And I don't mean to lessen the benefit to the community of the work that's already been done, but that's a different matter. That's not the one we're talking about now. We're talking about 2 trees.
Yeah, and the matter before us is 2 trees. But I think you cannot look at it in isolation. I think you have to look at the 2.5 years of pre-remediation or pre-work that has been done to this property to improve it, to make it more congruous, to add to the charm of the village, to add character. So we're not code enforcement, nor are we a punitive board. I don't like, for me personally, I don't like having to sit here and rubber stamp this. None of us do. That's not what we want to do. We want to be adding to the charm, and something's been taken away from the charm. But the alternative to plant, whether it's crepe myrtles or something that blocks an attractive house that they've improved, to me, I don't know if that adds anything to this property.
Well, I think I agree, the renovations have been amazing. I don't think that the 2 pines detracted from that aesthetically, and it doesn't sound like that was the reason for them being taken down. So I think if they just planted 2 more pine trees in their place, they won't have a sap problem because they'll be tiny for the next, for the foreseeable future.
If I may, one option would be, because what we regulate, this commission, is tree removal on the street side of the property. So
Over 12 inches.
perhaps, right. So perhaps if we're looking for a like for like replacement, they could do that someplace else on the property where it doesn't impact the vehicles, but still on the street side. And one other thing I'll just add, if you do choose to go that route, and we've closed the public hearing on the record on this, you could ask staff to take a look at the proposal for any remediation, and certainly between the 3 of us, we have the skills to be able to determine whether that's sufficient or would meet the standard. So,
Well, I guess I feel Richard's uncomfortableness. On the other hand, I don't want to set a precedent for everyone else that wants to cut the trees down and come in later and say, oops, and have no way to fix it.
Yeah.
I think it's fine if, as Pam suggests, the staff recommends and works with the homeowner to do the remediation, and as opposed to us. I agree, some remediation would have to be part of our approval, but maybe it's better that we leave that part in staff's hands.
Yeah, and not, To add to that, the applicant, of their own accord, planned additional landscaping.
And my position is as reluctant as it may be, that may have to be what suffices for us, and taking the homeowner at their word. Because at the end of the day, if you came back, you can't plant a 12-inch caliper tree. Wherever you put on the property, it's going to be less than 12 inches, and there's nothing preventing them from cutting it down the next day, and they don't have to come before us. So it's, it's,
All the more reason for us to do what we can do.
yeah. But we, again, we're not the bite. We're not enforcement. So,
I totally agree, we're not enforcement, but I also believe we have to uphold, or we try to uphold, the vision of Pinehurst and the Olmsted Plan, where the reason why we have ordinances or codes in the historic district that protect the street-facing trees is to be consistent with that Olmsted Plan. And I think David has a very good point about suggesting remediation, but not in a punitive way. I'd like to see, and I'm not looking for a professional landscape plan at all, but I'd like to see something that says, like, we will replace some pretty mature trees, not like a 5-inch tree in the ground, but, put some mature trees in, and if you don't want pines, maybe some oaks or something like that, that will gain height versus a holly shrub that would only be 8 feet tall, so that over time, the canopy would be reestablished. Maybe not in our lifetime, but for the benefit of other citizens in Pinehurst years to come. And I think we owe that to this village and to the Olmsted, the whole premise of why we have the codes that we do.
I agree. I think it would be a lovely gesture at the very least for the stewardship of the village. And I do like Pam's idea, even if it's not in the front of the house, somewhere on the property, that it will contribute to the canopy for some lucky resident down the road.
Procedurally, is there a way to reopen our opportunity to speak with the applicant directly and ask them what they suggest, what they're willing to offer?
And you've closed the hearing, the record on this case. You can reopen it because we're still at the advertised date of the hearing, if you'd like to.
Make a motion to reopen the evidentiary portion of the meeting.
I'll second that.
all in favor, say aye.
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 What would you?
The record is now reopened.
What would you suggest?
I haven't looked into it. I don't know what I would want to plant. I would,
Well, just in terms of procedure. I mean, you can hear our dilemma. We don't want to be
I hear
punitive.
your dilemma. At the same time, you have to look at where we are. I mean, we have put a lot of time and a lot of effort into making a 1970s brick ranch house into something that looks nice. And this was not done intentionally to get one over on the village. I mean, we've done 2 different major things in the village, and we've abided by all the rules. So I don't mind planting trees. I just don't, I need to sit down with my landscaper because I want to make sure I plant the right tree in the right place that's not going to give me a sap problem, that's not going to give me a big leaf problem, that's not going to end up being a problem down the road.
I don't think,
I hear you right. You're suggesting that you're willing to add some landscaping.
I am willing.
A tree or 2.
I'm willing to replace 2 trees. Yes,
A tree
sir.
or 2, depending on what they are.
Absolutely.
And not a pine tree in that location or anywhere else.
Sounds good to me.
and this isn't like an immediate, right? This is just like
Well, and it comes back to the original point. If we're not conditioning anything, I don't think we have the authority to do that. That's a question for staff. But so are we just appealing to someone's good nature and saying do the right thing? Because I think
Yes,
they've already.
that's what we're doing.
I think they already said that in the
In
hearing.
good faith, we are willing to plant 2 trees. Now, I'm not willing to go spend an ungodly amount of money to bring in 2 giant oak trees or 2 giant pine trees. But I'm willing to plant trees that will one day maybe be a part of the canopy. But I'm in good faith, that's what I'm willing to do.
I think it's on the record, and that's good enough. We can proceed to a vote and trust that our fellow citizen will do what he says.
It was on the record earlier as well, where they'd offered up to make some landscaping improvements. What, my point is, we cannot condition, and we're not going to condition a motion based on it, so whether it's one tree, two trees, a shrub pine, I don't think we're going down that road. I'm
And
saying
what
if you
is
look
our,
back,
what is our recourse when other,
why do we have to have recourse? We're not a
Well-
recourse board.
what is going to stop other future homeowners from just, not tearing down trees and then they're coming to us?
Wait, do we
"Oops."
have to close that first before we discuss?
No, I think we can,
I mean,
yeah. But we're not enforcement.
I agree,
We're
but-
congruency. So
we're going to approve this ex post facto type behavior. I think there should be some standard or guidelines for doing that, for why we should approve people who've already violated
Oh.
the standards.
let me go ahead. We'll close the public record piece of this, so the record's officially closed. I don't disagree with you. It is, I don't think any of us are sitting here smiling about this, but we're not code enforcement, we're not the bite. So don't disagree that that's a real issue, but it's not an issue we're going to solve, and it's not an issue that the HPC is tasked with. That is something with enforcement, that is staff, nor do I think that just because we decide something on one particular application, does that automatically set a precedent for everyone else. So I think situations are different. I think if this homeowner hadn't done anything and gone and cut 2 trees down, that is completely different to the hundreds of thousands of dollars and 2.5 years of hard work, completely transforming a house where you can look back at a pattern of behavior and go, these people have really made some improvements and there's no malintent. Those are two different things from a case if someone sat here flippant and hadn't done anything to the house and cut down trees and said, I'm not going to do anything. So I think you have to look at the case before us, and the application is 2 trees that have been gone, but you can't look at it in isolation without looking back at the transformation of the property. And I think by that you can judge good faith.
I also think we as a group know we have some work to do on trees in general in our standards. And
Yep.
I see this as an example of what we need to tackle, but we can't enforce something we haven't written yet.
Right.
But it certainly makes it clear to me, this is not the first time we've come to a problem with trees. So I think we got to get after it.
Well, we're glad you're re-upping.
Clean our own house.
Sticking around,
first,
you got your
as it
next
were.
task.
Can I ask a question?
No, we've closed,
Okay,
we've
okay.
closed the record.
Then I'll ask the staff in an email.
I'd like to make
Good
a
debate.
motion.
You'd like to make a motion?
I get the right one here. Which house is this again?
35 Laurel, so you're 00033.
Here we are. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider the request for a major certificate of appropriateness within the Pinehurst Historic District. Oh, sorry, beg pardon. I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness and find the major work at 35 Laurel Road is not consistent with the Historic District standards. I can't say that. It's not congruous.
I think you would just have to say and is deemed incongruous.
But then you can't get it, she can't get a certificate.
I think it is what it is.
So we can't say it's inconsistent and incongruous and also approve it. It has to be one or the other.
Consistency or not consistency is not the critical piece, there's congruity.
Right.
That's what
I'm good
governs the
through
COA.
consistent, because I can say not consistent, I can do that. But can I say congruous? Well, I guess I could say, I could find a
Yeah.
way to say it's congruous because other people have cut down trees when we didn't like it.
Or
And
because
that way it's congruous.
there's places where pine trees don't exist.
Let me try again.
David, let me offer a suggestion. So it can be congruous, just as you said, because 12-inch caliper street-facing trees are removed for various reasons. But what would be consistent with our standards is it came before us at the appropriate time, and received sufficient evidence, it was done in a certain way that we're typically used to, not after the fact. So, to me, that's the not consistent piece.
I have no problem saying it's inconsistent. I just have to find rationale to say it's congruous, and I guess, we could dream some up.
You don't have to say why.
I think David doesn't want to be on record saying that it's congruous.
I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness and find the proposed major work at 35 Laurel Road is inconsistent with the Historic District standards in that the trees were cut down without approval, but is deemed congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District based on the testimony given, the materials submitted, and the findings of fact. Best I can do.
Motion made by David. Is there a second? Should I poll the members? Motion made by David Herring. David, yea or nay?
I can't second my own motion.
So, so there's no second.
You have a vote?
Maybe the way for us to get around making the motion would be to have a condition attached that would talk about the remediation or the landscape plan that is intended to be worked on with the staff. That way, we're making a motion so that the public knows we know there's something in the future that's going to happen. Because right now, the way it looks, we don't have that. Just a thought.
Okay, so the motion, there was no second for the motion, so the motion dies. So the motion is off the table.
I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness and find the proposed major work at 35 Laurel Road is inconsistent with the Historic District standards because the 2 trees in question were removed without receiving approval. And
I think you can do, because you can do approve with conditions and then just
The
list
end.
the conditions at the end.
okay, and then, okay.
David, I'm not, if you wouldn't be so kind, can you restart?
Yeah.
For the record.
I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness and find the proposed major work at 35 Laurel Road is inconsistent with the Historic District standards because the 2 trees in question were removed without prior approval and is deemed congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District based on the testimony given, the material submitted, and the findings of fact with the following conditions. Is that what you want to do?
I would just amend that because when we make the motion, it should not be we approve with conditions. And we have that option in the motion.
Yeah, or just we approve based on the following conditions.
Right, but he didn't use that language in the
Okay,
motion.
that's
So I
fine.
think if you could start it with you move that you approve with conditions. You see the option there?
I do.
Okay, so maybe reread.
All right, here we go again.
You want to withdraw the previous motion?
Yep,
You'll make a
let's
new motion.
That's right. Last one. I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve with conditions a certificate of appropriateness and find the proposed major work at 35 Laurel Road is inconsistent with the Historic District standards because the 2 trees in question were removed without prior approval and is deemed congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District based on the testimony given, the material submitted, and the findings of fact. The list of conditions, the condition is,
I think you have to say it.
what do you want to say? What's your amendment?
Yep.
Well, the condition is that they will work to submit with the staff, a landscape plan to remediate or further replacement.
The condition is that the applicant will work with the staff to develop a landscape plan in remediation for this condition.
Okay, motion made. Is there a second?
Second?
I'll poll everybody. I'll start with Angelique on my left.
Aye.
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 Congratulations. Thank you for your patience. You have your COA.
Thank you.
Moving on to our final case of the evening.
All right, everybody, this is the last one.
Make it fun.
And this is kind of a fun one. I wish I'd like to have this in my house. So again, this is, the applicant is Cribbs Construction for the owners of the house of Robert and Nancy Gooding on 100 Ritter Road East. Residential with a PID of 000255850, COA number 00044. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider a request for a major certificate of appropriateness within the Pinehurst Historic District for the construction of a 14-foot, 4 inches by 20-foot open outdoor kitchen at 100 Ritter Road East. The information below I've already said, and it's on the next slide as well. Again, this is for a COA for the construction of an open outdoor kitchen. The existing structure was built in 1914 and is approximately 0.324 acres in size. The applicant proposes to match materials and designs of the existing shop, and the applicant has provided additional information which is included in the applicant's exhibits. This is considered a major work, new construction, or an addition, not considered minor. Here is our location map, and you can see where the hatched areas where the subject property is. So it's right in the heart of the village, right by the resort. And this public hearing was noticed in accordance with the Pinehurst Development Ordinance and North Carolina General Statutes 160D-406. Here is the location of the addition on, I guess you would say, the east side of the house, facing Chinklepin Road. It will be attached to an existing shed. As you can see here, the building elevations. Right here is the existing shed. Outdoor kitchen will be attached to the rear of it. Here is the location where the outdoor kitchen will be. This is the rear of the shed. This is the front. You see this window right here will be removed, and there'll be a door put in that place to lead out to the outdoor kitchen. The applicant has submitted an application and provided additional documentation in an attempt to satisfy the burden of proof. The proposed addition would feature materials, doors, and collars compatible with the existing dwelling. The commission will need to determine if the changes are compatible with the architectural character of the structure, congruous with the historic district, and meet historic district standards. Via email, the applicant confirmed that the like-for-like materials proposed for the project include hardy lap siding, asphalt shingles in peppermill gray color, white exterior paint, same as on the house's shed, and the existing window on the rear of the shed will be replaced by a fiberglass door with the window painted the same color as the shed. At this time, staff would like to submit the following into the record. Staff report with the attachments and exhibits, the presentation and the application, and the applicant's material and exhibits. And that's it.
Thank you, Michael. Without objection, the materials referred to by staff are admitted into the record. Any questions from the commissioners for staff? Seeing none, we'll invite the applicant up. I'm going to have you do it all over again for the record. We'll see. First name, please. Can you spell your last?
Russ Cribbs, Cribbs.
Thank you.
And I'm
If
the
you,
builder.
thank you. Would you raise your right hand? Ah, I've already sworn you in. You're fine. You can have a seat. Thank you. You heard Michael's presentation of the application. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I will add something this time. I want to give a little bit of history on the house, if I may. It was built in 1914 by Commodore John T. Newton, who was a member of the Marconi Commission, and it was sold by the Newton family in 1958 to Jill's grandfather, who was Byron Richardson, postmaster of Pinehurst at the time. She is also Rassie Wicker's granddaughter. Is it appropriate now to talk about a couple of the design elements? May
Sure.
I add that? Okay. We are doing the open rafters on the new structure, just like the existing structure. And the siding is a very, very small amount of siding that is on the gable end. Some of that will be open. And so yes, thank you for the plans there. It's just a small amount of siding at the gable. That's all I have to add.
Thank you.
There's a little knee wall, L-shaped knee wall.
Correct.
What are the finishes on both sides of that?
We'll do the same siding, and that's where the grills and different things that they have will be placed against. There's also a large fence that separates, it must be probably 6 feet tall or so behind that blocks it's like a screening to the magnolia end that's behind it, so you won't be able to see it, but it's still nice to have. In case we don't have any power or anything, it's nice to be able to have that. Keeps it cleaner too.
So it's lap siding on the outside.
Correct.
The inside, on the kitchen side, there's a little note which reads, painted MR board or per builder. What's MR board? Or alternately, what's per builder?
Sometimes people want stone there, sometimes people want siding. It's all going to be covered, so I would recommend siding.
Siding. So
I'm
it's
not
just-
sure what MR board, maybe MDO or like
Whatever you want, you're the builder.
yeah, but siding would be the most appropriate thing to do
Okay,
there.
so for the record, siding inside and out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Questions of the applicant from commissioners? Seeing none, I'm going to ask if there's anyone in the public who would wish to come forward and speak. Seeing none. Then we're going to go ahead and close the record in this case. And is there any deliberation by the commissioners?
I just want to know if we can condition this approval on getting invited to the parties.
This is an outstanding location.
And I know Jill, so
I know her too.
no ex parte communication, though.
Okay. Yes, and I'd heard that story a while back because the brother, Jim, is my neighbor of the other grandchild of the Wickers.
You live across from Rassie Wicker's house.
One sibling got this house and one sibling got that house. So,
And Jill grew up as a baby in my house and has pictures of it with the crib. I mean, it's really there's a nice history to the property and her story.
And I think this is a coincidence, but I have now done Rassie Wicker's renovation, Bert Wicker's renovation, and now this. So I don't think I was picked for that reason. It's just a coincidence.
I did officially close the record, so
Yeah,
we'll
but
mix that up. But solid deliberation from commissioners. Nice to end on that note. Sounds like someone would be ready to make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve a certificate of appropriateness, COA 2024-00044, and find the proposed major work at 100 Ritter Road East is consistent with historic district standards and is deemed congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District based on the testimony given, the material submitted, and the findings of fact.
Second.
Motion made by Angelique, second by Kara. All those in favor say aye.
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 None saying nay. Congratulations. It's approved. You have your COA.
Very good.
Let's see. That concludes the public hearing. May I have a motion from a commissioner to close the public hearing and return to the regular commission meeting?
So moved.
Motion by David Herring,
Second.
second by Karen Mathis. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. We are now in a regular meeting, and this is a public meeting, and you're welcome to stay and observe. But only members of the commission and its staff may speak. You have been provided a copy of, all commission have been provided a copy of the minor work or staff approvals. Any questions on minor work COAs issued for staff?
What's the trees in the rear yard?
Minor work.
I know, I'm just curious. Was it 1 tree or 20 trees or?
Oh, this is, sorry, this is a,
Oh, you've got the laundry list here.
we're having a transition.
Technical error.
Issue, so these are older, prior to.
So we've already approved them.
Okay.
And you've already seen these, and we'll add now 2 months to your next meeting.
Got it. Okay.
So,
Do you
so
have to- just
These-
just because I'm anticipating some work on trees,
These
do you
were,
happen to remember what those were?
yeah, I don't, this was.
Okay.
But we can do that and update you when you get the new list.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Next meeting date is the 23rd of May, and that'll be our regular meeting. And then I'm going to ask, is there any other business? And I think we need to add continued work session and attacking possibly trees and landscaping and our standards as they address to everything canopy.
I think, just to refresh my memory, if nothing else, we had a half a dozen sections which we have not gone through. If there's any way we could just zoom through those,
And wrap that up.
wrap it up, get it to the powers that be, and move on to trees.
I got no objection. So are you requesting sounds like the buried request, there is a work session prior to the meeting on May 23rd.
That would be great.
I have no objection to that.
Maria, after we do the content, can I have like a digital copy to do the,
Grammar?
yeah. Thanks.
And we would do that work session prior to the regular meeting at 3.
Do we need more time than an hour? What is the caseload for that meeting so far?
We got a second one in today.
When's the deadline?
Well, it really depends on how quickly we're willing to zoom through it.
12 sections?
No, not 12. I've forgotten exactly, a handful, 3 or 4,
Okay.
5.
Can we have it beforehand so we can look at it and then?
Yeah.
come?
Who's got the latest copy?
Oh, good.
Maria?
I have the latest copy of those sections.
Okay. Why don't we do that, 3 o'clock? That work? Staff going to confirm if it's available? Thank you. It is? Oh, okay. Thank you, Shelby. Okay. We appreciate that. Okay. Any other business? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion from Angelique, second from Roxanne. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We're now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.